right. We got a great packed room too, Derek. We got a packed room. We got our state champion group 3, not like the old days, the sectional, the whole entire group, state 3 group champions, Old Tappan. I've Coach Dunn on right below me, head coach, and I have Joe Klaus over below, and to my right, it might be your left. I don't know what it looks like from that standpoint. But this is a great opportunity to talk to these guys about what they did. It's a phenomenal accomplishment. I think it's the second one, group championship, right, that they've gotten. And the way New Jersey has changed their format to win the group championship is really, really a difficult task, not just because of, you're playing the whole entire state, but the number of games that you have to continue to be on point for. I think it was 14 games total. Did you guys end up playing? 14?
13. We had one bye week. Yep.
13 games. So that's a lot of games. It's an extended amount of time and extended amount of difficult games that you guys have to actually play. So it's great to have you on. We had Coach Dunn on several months ago. I joked before. I said, that podcast was heavily watched, but apparently not by any of your opponents. So they didn't get any tips on how to possibly stop Old Tappan. But it was awesome. And what was really awesome, and just some of the clips I have, because, in the past I had helped them out as an analyst. This year I was very poor. I only did one game. So I fired myself from that job. I'm officially fired. Although I still enjoy watching like the clips of the different things because you guys clip it up so good. But it's amazing to see the performance and what you also did from an adaptation standpoint, right? Going with a new quarterback this year, obviously taking the guy who's really been your phenomenal athlete who was playing quarterback. And I forgot, before I asked my first question, I had forgotten that he was the guy that came in the second half on your last group state championship. And he threw that pass for the touchdown to what was the big receiver you guys had?
Evan Brooks.
Yeah, Brooks. So that was the end of the game there to cinch the game. It's interesting. It's kind of like a foreshadowing on what he ended up becoming. So it's really, really cool to see that. I'll kind of start with Coach Dunn here. What from the last time getting to this road to the state championship all the way? What did you learn from the last time you guys got there? And then I think last year you were in. Were you in it, or 2 years ago were you in it and you had lost one of them, or no? Am I wrong?
No, we won it 2 years ago. Then last year we lost in the sections.
Okay, sectionals. Yeah. So what did you learn from going down there last time to coming down there this time that you really thought kind of might have helped you or made any differences?
I would tell you this, just game to game and whatever it was. I don't know if it's necessarily year to year, but game to game, week to week, we learn a lot just about the kids you have, and every group's different, and how they manage things. And the one thing I mentioned to the kids, like this is just a note about coaching kids. Every coaches always say, like, when you're successful, people ask you and all the things you do well or whatever. I know the things that we do poorly and the things that we have to get better at, more so. And I remember being in the game the last time, and we came in at halftime 2 years ago at Rutgers, and we came in at halftime. We were up 14-7, and there's like, they're teenage kids. They're sitting in the locker, and I'm seeing like kids with like blank stares on their faces, like big name kids that you've heard of, like whatever, and kids that you're counting on, like primetime kids, and they're like zoned out, like not really. And you think like all the coaching you do, how many years, and you've seen everything and prepare for everything and know what's going to happen. No kids. And that's happened to me like a couple times. That was one of those times like that happened where it's like one of these huge events, games, and you don't think you have to motivate kids that hard to focus, to play, whatever. And you realize real quick, they're kids. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you got to be on top of it. And these are your best kids, and they're like on another planet at halftime of a game you're winning and playing fairly decently. And, you could see if you were losing and shell shock, whatever, but there was nothing like that. And you had to address it. And I told the kids that, like, coming in, like, I don't want to see kids with blank stares. Like, you got to be locked in and manage your emotions and level up to game time and not spend it all and I still can't explain why that happened, but it's, kids, emotions, whatever. And fortunately those kids were able to get it back and respond and play well in the second half. But I talked to the kids about it. You can't blow it all out on Wednesday, and we still got 4 or 5 days before the game, and you got to kind of manage that leading up to the game. So probably, that's one of the biggest things.
That's really interesting point, because I've seen that a few times as a coach, and it's a hard thing to figure out when you're winning the game, especially when you're winning the game. Like when you see it, if you're losing the game, sometimes kids get shell shocked and you're like, okay, they're losing. They're not used to losing, or they're not comfortable. But when you're winning, that's an odd, that has to be an odd thing to walk into, because you're like, wait a minute, you're winning the game. Maybe it's not the blowout that they've been used to, like beating up on teams, but you're winning the game, and they're looking at it like it's almost like they're looking like for help there, right? It's like a lifeline, and it's a weird feeling to see that when you're winning a game. It's an odd thing. That's interesting that you not only that you recognize that, but you actually addressed that beforehand, which I think is and I bet you that made them a lot more comfortable. Did you think that they were comfortable coming into playing there this year, more comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, I thought our team was, ready to go. I don't think we had I thought we had good preparation all the way up, but it was a long week for going from Friday to Sunday. And then, as always happens, like Joe will tell you, the day before the game, we're just doing our run through and trying to finish off everything was horrible. Like, it was just a terrible practice. And to the point where I was losing my mind, so again, and I walked off with Joe and I said, whatever it is, we coached it up this week. Like, now they got to show up and play. Like, I mean, it's got to be, we'll still keep coaching right up to game time through the game, motivating, whatever. But, it's always those things with kids, like they're kids, everybody forgets that. I was talking to my dad, after one of the games, one of the playoff games, after the Depascale Valley game, and they'd beaten us and then we beat them. And he's what he thinks are the reasons why. And I said to my dad, I said, you're under the assumption that these 16-year-old kids are laser focused and giving every bit of ounce of energy and effort into everything they're doing on every single play. And he said, yeah, that's right. And I said, it's not happening. Like, that's, you're
like, no,
it happened. Yeah. And that's pretty much like Joe and I, and Pete, my brother, we tease each other. Like, we constantly got to don't overcoach it. Just get them to play hard. Like, that's, make sure they're playing hard and focused, So, I mean, those are the things that come up that you don't always expect, and they catch you by surprise.
No doubt about it. Joe, it's the staff that you guys have, especially the core guys, obviously Coach Dunn, you, Steffner, who's been there for a long time now, right? Obviously, Brian's brother, Peter, that's been there for a long time. What is it about, especially with the other assistants, what is it about the relationships that you guys have, as far as, especially during game week, especially with the state championship? What is it that you're able to connect with those guys on that really helps to get you guys prepared at a different level?
Well, I think it's a testament to Brian, first off. He lets his assistant coaches coach, you know what I mean? And he gives you the jobs that you have to do and you got to get done, and he expects you to get it done. And once you get it done, then he trusts you and to do your job. And we have guys on the staff now. I mean, I think I've been here 12 years, 13 years, and there's guys that were here longer than I have been here, Brendan O'Neill,
right.
Dunn, those guys have been here for a long, long time and worked together with Brian and us. And be honest with you, it's just a lot of guys that we know each other, we know our strengths and weaknesses, and it's just we can get on each other pretty good when you're not doing the job, and get on each other. Harsh criticism is what we always talk about. But I mean, as far as working with this staff, everyone has a job to do, and they do their job to 100%. And Brian kind of gives us the freedom to do that. He's not a micromanager type guy or a guy that's all over you. He gives you an assignment to do, and you get it done. And for years now, that's what we've been doing, and so it's been working. And it's always good to go to work with a bunch of guys you like working with. We could ball bust with the best of them, and and fun, you know.
Yeah, and Coach, I think that's something that you're not seeing a lot of nowadays either, right? Is the staffs that stay together kind of for a long time, right? Because, you know, whether an assistant gets a head job or somebody's using it to kind of catapult themselves to a different thing, that cohesiveness of, you know, like you said, strengths and weaknesses, knowing who plays what role, right? And for the most part, like when you can keep those things together, and now the kids see and know who's who and all of that, like that's where I think the most success comes with programs that are true high school staples like you guys, where you're in the state finals year after year. There's something to be said when you have a staff that stays together and kind of continues that process year after year after year, right? Like you see a lot of these staffs now, like you said, like guys go different places or somebody moves on here. And I don't know if people really understand, especially at the high school level, where a lot of coaches wear numerous hats, not just, oh, he's an offensive coordinator, he's this, just things on like just and game day operations are an entire different, you know, thing to it. You know, that I think is so important when it comes to winning, that like I just don't think guys really get how much that really matters in terms of continuing year after year that success.
Coach Klaus, tell Brendan O'Neill that I'm sorry I forgot him, because I know he's going to be very upset that I didn't mention him, because that will be the first thing, you know what I mean?
He's already I'm just telling you.
Yeah, that's right. He's already going to be upset about it. You either one of you guys can answer this question. Each year, I think what's really unique is that, especially with respect to Old Tappan, that you have a new person that rises up and steps up. And, you know, there's plenty of teams that have a superstar that they ride that go to the championship, and that happens a lot. But what you guys seem to have is you have one or multiple guys that each year a new guy or guys replace a role of somebody else and step right into that role pretty seamlessly. And either one of you can answer that. But is that something that you guys foster, you know, as far as from a program standpoint, to make sure you have those guys prepared along the way, so when it is their chance, they are able to step into that role? Talk a little bit about that.
I'll say the first thing. I mean, the first thing is, and it goes a little bit to what Derek was just saying, but the kids, we take a lot of put a lot of effort and a lot of pride into developing the kids along the way, from the time they're ninth graders and even before when they were little kids, but and developing the kids and putting them into spots and identifying kids who can help you and what they're going to be able to do and projecting it down the road. Mm-hmm. But you know, the fortunate thing is that we have guys who do a really good job at it. Like Joe's an example of, he's an outstanding teacher of the game. Like we have good coaches. Our coaches are really good and know what they're doing and work hard at. But I got a couple guys, Joe being one of them, who can teach the game. And he can command a room and stand in front of a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year-olds and command a room in front of them. And his passion for the game comes out. And, you know, how much he loves the game comes out in the way he teaches it. And that rubs off on kids. So the kids, they're learning as they go. They're growing, developing, and when they get the opportunities, they cherish it and they move into it. And a lot of that has to do with, like, you know, also he does a good job of it, a coach. We take this real serious, like too serious sometimes, but we also understand, like, we're making these kids work really hard. You got to have some fun while you do it and be able to laugh with them and be able to have like a good time with it. Otherwise, it can get stale real quick for young kids. So being able to project that over not just weeks, but years that the kids are in the program, I think that's the biggest factor in what you're talking about, having kids who are able and looking forward to the opportunity to step into those positions.
Joe, you have anything that you want to input on that?
Yeah, just one little thing. Like, you know, I know everyone always talks about like Alex came into the game and when he was a sophomore, but I mean, he actually started for us as a receiver and corner on that team as well. So it wasn't like he was coming out, you know, cold off the bench. And I
Right.
always kind of bad for the kid about that because he was actually playing very, very good for us as a corner and a slot receiver as a sophomore. So like a lot of these kids have roles for us on the team that maybe no one else really sees, but everyone on the team knows it. And, you know, we take a lot of pride in like our scout team kids. You know, we call it the cheese, you know, because they got, you know, they wear like they pretty much run through them like Swiss cheese. They got those like yellow pennies on, you know.
Right.
But, you know, we give out a cheese player of the week. And a lot of times those kids, you know, take a lot of pride in that. And, you know, we take a lot of pride in running, the other team's offense and defense fairly well against our guys. And we develop them that way, and then they play special teams, or you know what I mean. And you don't really notice those things, but then when those special teams and they're making those tons of plays and you're giving them some positive feedback for it, then we see them in the off season. I mean, we want our kids playing other sports. All of a sudden, they start excelling in another sport, and you kind of know, like, all right, this kid's ready to take the next step. Or he shows up to the weight room all the time, and you're like, yeah, this kid's gonna make a jump. And a lot of times these kids surprise you. You know, a lot of times it's not the kid you think it will be, and all of a sudden, you know, he just keeps putting the time in every day, getting a little bit better. And I mean, there you are as a senior. You know, you're stepping out on the field. We had a kid, you know, this year, kid Jack Horgan. You know, was our nose guard kid, tough kid, pretty much standard old Tappan offensive lineman. You know what I mean? Offensive, defensive lineman, good, tough kid. Worked his ass off all off season, you know, plays another sport, and you know, stepped up huge for us. He was just behind kids that were pretty good,
right?
You know? That's what ended up happening to him. But I mean, he again was a situational kid for us, special team kid for us. You know, a couple of years now, had a great senior year because he just kept working really, really hard at it. You know, when no one was watching. So.
Coach, I think that's important too. Like you said, you know, guys have roles leading up to it, whether they're as sophomores or juniors, right? It's like you don't get everything at once. You don't just step into an old Japan program as a sophomore and get handed the keys to the Corvette. You work your way there, right? And then with your talent evaluation and all of those types of things, like seeing those kids from a young age, you know, hey, this guy might be this for us. All right, well, let's give him a little taste of it on special teams and see how he does. Okay, well, look, he's dominating JV. Let's see if now he can work his way up to this role. I think by giving kids, right, and we do it in our program as well, where you give them a little bit of that, okay, now let's take the next step, and let's take the next step. As they continue to progress, that little bit of, you know, hey, you're going to get to do this week. Let's see how you do. And that encouragement, knowing that they have a role, they might be not a starter on offense or defense yet, but eventually work their way to it by giving them a little bit of that taste. And I think that's extremely important in terms of, you know, as you progress on a scout team or JV. Coach, this question is kind of for you. How do you break it up in terms of who goes with the JV team during the week and who, you know, has it been standard your entire career in terms of who you send down there, or do you mix and match it? How do you do it?
No, it's total. It's literally week to week. You know, there's nothing standard about it. There are when we play at home and have a JV game at home, the kids will practice with the varsity team, jump the fence, and go play a quarter or two with the JV team, then come back to practice. I mean,
phenomenal.
Yeah, it's totally random, and it depends on what kids we need healthy for the following week, what kids need some playing time and got to get into a game, and we'll mix it up and just based on what's most important. You know what? Like we have our team kids, and we've talked about it. Sometimes they're better like the other team's offense in JV games, because that's all they've run all week.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
how do you break it up staff wise, Coach? Do you have certain coaches that always go JV?
Yeah. So we have the same three guys that run with the JV kids, whether they're traveling or at home. And, you know, when we're home, we try and get all the coaches for part of the JV game over there just to show that the kids, you know, they're getting coached by everybody and that we're all interested in how they do and play. So I think that's important, you know, that everybody's over there involved in what's going on. And so that's, yeah, and like I said, it's week to week and depending on the schedule. But, you know, that Monday's important for those kids. And they don't get much time off like JV kids. They're working hard all during
And I
the week.
constantly tell guys, when they like, oh, why am I playing JV? It's like, buddy, like you just got to run around on like every special team and then got some burn at the end of the game on Friday night. And now you get to go play another game on Monday rather than have to go run lift film. Like football, you don't get to play a lot of games. And so now you get to go do that. Maybe you're in a different role as a JV player. You're playing in different positions. Like those things are extremely important.
Yep, for sure.
Do the kids that come up in the program, do they know what the expectation that is set from the previous groups, or is this something that when they come in as freshmen, or when they come from freshman team to when they start to come to you guys more on a regular basis, do you have to set that expectation with them? Is there an understanding from those kids that they know what's expected of them? How was that handled?
I mean, we do a lot of little things along the way. One of the big things is like we kept a handful of freshmen with us for the playoff from there. They're all welcome to stay, but a lot of guys have different sports, whatever. But a lot of kids want to be part of that, and they learn kind of like as they go through that. So that's a big part of it. The ninth graders are involved in this. We do, not on day-to-day practice level, but in terms of like being part of the team and meals and being around and watching some film and things like that. So I think they're in the same locker room. They get the idea of what's expected and how we operate. So I think that kind of translates. From the younger standpoint, like we have the extending programs, and honestly, I think I did better years ago of like incorporating it a bit more. But I see it a lot in the summer and in the season getting to their games, and So I think we've got a pretty good character. A lot of young brothers, things like that. It's like the typical things that happen naturally.
Well, that is a big thing, right? The younger brother sees the older brother play, communicate, all their friends play. That I think that's a big deal. I think also that there's, you've been able to establish a culture of football within that community, which is really strong, and really, it's become a situation where Old Tappan is looked at, and we were talking about this this morning, me and Derek. Old Tappan, other than the Parochials, is the only North Jersey team to win the public to win a public championship. The other ones were the Parochials, but it was the public school wise, it was only Old Tappan. And
Westwood.
The Westwood won the group championship?
Yeah, they won it last year. They beat Rumson Fairhaven.
Oh no, I'm talking about this year.
Oh.
Yeah, this year was the only. Yeah, you guys were the only public, like North Jersey, other than the two. The only North public that took home a group championship. Like it was that was it. Like everybody else was South. And we're not talking quote unquote central other than Rumson, right? Everybody else was like, Philly.
Yeah. And parochials, having lived down here for quite a while, like when you get towards like Philly, unless they're willing to cross over into St. Joseph, PA, or like a Power or Roman Catholic, they want to stay in New Jersey. There's not a ton of parochials. So those kids stay in public and it's helped them a lot. Become powerhouse programs, and the coaches have been able to kind of make penetration from that standpoint. You guys have been able to do a great job of it in North Jersey, and down here, Rumson has done a great job of it. Really, right next door, obviously, is Red Bank Catholic, and then next door to Red Bank Catholic is St. John Vianney. But Rumson has done a really great job of it. And what I'm noticing, and in particular, Rumson and you guys, what I'm noticing is that culture has become so powerful that the kids know that this program is going to give them everything that they need, just like your program is going to give them everything they need. And that's like nuts to bolts, becoming a great football player, becoming the best student they could be, opportunities at the next level, right? And all those things are becoming, it's not even something that has to be said. It's really an unsaid thing that that people understand from that standpoint. do you think that the structure, like the conference that you guys are in, has that been advantageous for you from a playing standpoint? Because I remember back in the old days, you were one of the only guys, Coach Dunn, that was like, I'll go play St. Joe's and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that now where the culture is that you guys are staying, playing, Rampo's, all the strong public schools in North Jersey, that's helped to be able to build more of the culture that you guys have within the program?
Being in the super conference, they do a really good job of structuring the schedule and making you play who you should be playing. I think they're
Right.
pretty good at that. And not everybody's going to be happy. It's 140 teams
Right.
in the conference, whatever. There's always going to be
Right. It's the largest conference in the state, for God's sake.
Yeah. But I think overall they do a great job at putting people against who they've been. Now, within that, in the last, 8 years or whatever, how long it's been along, we had a schedule one year we were playing nobody from Bergen County and like Morris County, Sussex County teams, whatever. And then, but all interesting, different teams that we hadn't played. And then in the last couple of years, we've been back to playing like the teams that traditional rivals and also powers, like all the best teams from our geographic.
Yeah, your
area.
Northern Highlands and whatnot.
Yeah, Highlands, Ramapo, PV, Riverdale, and then we had West Essex added in, which is a great matchup for us too. So
that's a great matchup for you guys.
Yeah, it was a good opening game for us. So schedule wise, it's been, but it changes, depending on where they put you, and also our group sizes change. We were 4, we've been pretty much solid 3 last bunch of years. All I care about with the schedule is they put us against. We want to play the best teams up here. They want to give us like a West Essex or something like that. That's exciting too. So I don't really have any real. I often don't have many preferences as long as we're playing like the same core real good teams and get them on the schedule. But years ago, I didn't mind when we were we had an opportunity. It's different now. You play in St. Joe's or,
Oh, yeah. It's a totally different, even as you guys as a group 3 power, that's just a different, and it's not throwing shade on any of your guys or anything like that.
No, our best kids can play.
It's an absolute different freak. Yeah. I mean, look, I went to Group 1 Butler. We used to play DePaul and beat them every year. That shit ain't happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, Coach, my introduction to you was when I was at Passaic Valley, that we used to play you guys every year or have to deal with a Fuller brother or some shit. I mean, those are still comparable matchups. Now, how do you get certain divisional games and then you get to go and choose 3 out of division games, or do you get what they give you?
They so you can request, you'll get your division games, and this year TNEC came into our division, but they're moving into Ivy, so we just opted out of it and took a paper or whatever.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and actually they did a good job. They were not bad coming out of the Ivy this year. The guy did a good job.
Right.
So,
listen, you're talking some traditional. When we talk high school football in New Jersey, TNEC, what it used to be right before the privates came and take everybody. Shit, TNEC was rolling the dice with all of them. We talk about that, Dave, right, with Hackensack all the time. Yep. And I was just curious how it works, Coach, because down here in the Shore, there's 44 teams and whatnot. And, you get your divisional games and then you get your 3 request games or whatever. The thing about the Shore that's different is that they change divisions every single year.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't even get a home and home with certain teams. You may play the same team on the road for whatever, because, and it's based off of your last 2 years, how well you did. Do you bump up? Do you bump down? For a while, they weren't even going with geographical. There was, a lot of Ocean County teams going all the way up to play Monmouth County teams and vice versa. And, down here you have, you have your 3 parochials within the Shore Conference in Donovan Catholic, Red Bank Catholic and St. John Vianney. And that's it. Right. So they don't have their own little division to beat up on each other. They kind of have to sprinkle in certain games. So scheduling kind of matters a lot more down here. But I was just curious as to how it worked for you in terms of scheduling guys. For you, I would think a West Essex, maybe not, maybe you don't want to open up against them, but at least you're playing opponents that get you ultimately ready for the playoffs, right? Like I always love these teams that go, whatever one and have played really no one, and then they get in the playoffs and it's like they're out in the first round. Like you got to set that schedule up to play teams that are going to challenge you in some way, shape, or form to get you ready for when you have that playoff run so that you guys can continue to go deep like you do, right? Am I mistaken in that? Do you have the same philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, you want to play the best teams. I mean, but at the end of it, and Joe could answer this too. Like, I don't know that we don't. I don't think that we do anything. Like I tell the kids, I'm good at one thing. That's compartmentalizing, worrying about what's in front of me right at the moment. Like that's it, and not worrying about stuff that happened or stuff that's going to happen. So I don't know that we worry all that much about planning the stuff out for the playoffs.
Right.
I think we just worry about day to day, like how we're getting better, what we're doing, but I mean, when you compare like the different teams that you've got to go against, whatever, I always do say like we got to do stuff that's going to beat the best teams. Like I'll tell the kids like that we can get away with that crap and beat anybody. It doesn't matter. Like we got to do stuff that works against good teams. Like
100%, 100%.
How they're going to play you, and that the only way you learn is going against good teams. So certainly setting that bar where it is, like that's certainly how you get better. And then kids can be fooled really easily into thinking they're really good.
Hell yeah.
And they're not. And you got to stay on top of that all the time and point that out and continually work to get that out of a kid's mind. Like keeping a kid and telling them, making sure that they're confident enough to play well and know they can get the job done, but still being humble to know, like, I'm not that good. I got to keep working and working.
I got to get better. I got to get better week to week.
Yeah.
I think that's
hard because the social media, right, Dave? Like you see the social media guys and you're all telling them they're good. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
I think that both of you guys do that well. Isn't that great when we talk at the same time? All right, I think both of you guys do a really good job of that because, like I was watching the life of Nick Saban, which is, by the way, fascinating. Like at the end on the NFL Network, that one where he has I think he is Bill Belichick. It comes in and it's fascinating because like his thought process on things. That's what I find fascinating about it. Like what he's working through on things. Not a lot of people think that way, right? Even good coaches don't think that way. The way that he thinks about it, I say, is like kind of like it's a whole next level way of thinking about improvement. I'm not talking about winning games. I'm talking about like improving each day. And one of the things he brought up was when he was at LSU, they had a walk-off win where a ball got tipped on a Hail Mary. Their guy caught it, went into the end zone, right? And they beat Kentucky. And he was upset after the game, and everybody was like, why are you upset? Why the players are like that. The coaches are like, why are you upset? The fans are like, why are you upset? We just had this big win. And he knew that it wasn't going to be good enough to whoever they were going to play the next week. I can't remember who it was, but whoever they were going to play the next week, it might've been Alabama. And they end up, and he had a hard time at that time convincing everybody that was not going to get it done for when they play a better opponent. And then next week they went out and lost 31-0. And then everybody came back down to earth and they realized what he was talking about when he was upset. I think that both you and Joe have this ability to see that, yes, you won this game and it's good to feel good about the win, but we have to fix certain things because down the line or even next week, this is not going to be good enough. We need to personally improve at what we do in X, Y, and Z in order to get to that point, and we're not there. And I think that you guys do that uniquely. Now, I just listen to the way that you talk and listen to the way Joe talk. Like you guys, as high school coaches, you think about it in that way, which I think is a different type of mindset. I'm curious, and me and Coach Dunn talked about this in the last one where he had to go through some of that losing early on when he was a head coach in the beginning. Do you think that this is something that you kind of developed over the course of your career and there were things that you started to learn over time that made you realize, hey, this is good for this, but not for this? I'll let either one of you guys answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so I started off at Dumont. And we had some losing seasons there or whatever, and then we had a couple great seasons, and we push for a guy Jim Davidson, and I've always told from him, like, football's not complicated. There's only certain things to do with 11 kids. Like, you know what I mean? It's really, don't make it more complicated than it is, but the hardest thing is getting the kids to play hard all the time, practice hard all the time. And if you can get them to do that, then you got a chance to win more games than lose. And I always just took that like to heart. And, then I went to Riverdale with DJ, and then now same thing with Brian. And we're all just kind of like-minded people. Like, we don't really care. Yeah, we want to win games, but we also want to do it the right way. I mean, we want our kids to play hard and play with, highest effort possible. And I mean, that's pretty much what we stress the whole time. And we know what looks good and what doesn't look good. And we know where a kid might not be as talented as what we think, but he's practicing hard. And you're like, all right, like, he'll go out and play hard. So we'll have a chance, even though you might be outmatched athletically in some spots. You just know that this kid's buying in and he's practicing really, really hard. And he's getting a lot better, like, week in and week out. And so you can go to battle with those guys and try to do good things. And I mean, it's kind of the hardest thing in high school, because you just have to keep the kids focused on the task at hand, and to do that every single day. It's a grind, man. And it's a grind for these kids, and like, everything's so instant for them right now. I mean, they can go on their computers, get their homework done, get test answers. I mean, get all that
Literally.
stuff. Yeah, they could literally just do all of it right now.
Right.
But like this is hard. Like, you got to go out there practicing for 2 hours and put your face in the fan, and then you got to go do it the next day. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I give our kids a lot of credit with that,
And especially now with adding those couple extra games at the end of the year, when they're looking on social media and these guys are sending out like, oh, this is a highlight tape for this, my season's over, right? And they're still grinding day in and day out. Whereas a lot of the guys around them and all that stuff that they're seeing, they're doing something else, right? I mean, and I tell guys all the time, like, football's not for everyone, man. Like, you're practicing way more than you're playing. You're sacrificing a lot more, right? It's not like basketball or baseball or lacrosse where you're playing games over games over games. Like, you're grinding out practices way more than you're playing in games. And that's not, sometimes always fun. But I think, like, it's up to us as the coaches to kind of keep them as engaged as possible. And then ultimately, like, we can talk out of our face to these kids every day about, motivation and this and that and this. When they hear it from another peer, right, or someone that's literally going through them or going through it with them as, AKA a teammate or something of that nature, I think that's what takes them to that next level. Would you agree with that, class?
Yeah, I thought actually B. Dunn said it great this year in like one of our early meetings and like with the kids. Like, he's like, guys, our best teams are always player driven. They're not coach driven. If it's coach driven, it's going to be hard work all the time. Like, once it's player driven, I mean, we had some great leaders on the team this year that were seniors, some of them that were underclassmen as well. Like, really took control of the team and wouldn't allow you to practice bad or do any of that stuff or get on.
Right.
So it was really player driven. And I was thinking about back start reflecting at the end of the year. And I just remember B. Dunn right in the beginning of the year was just really talking to the kids about like it can't be coach driven team. Like, it has to be player driven, and you guys got to take it, and it's your team and go take it, and I thought our kids responded and did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, I think that player driven
pivotal.
That's the next level, right? For you can get to a certain point when it's coach driven because you feel like you're willing them to get to that point, but when it becomes player driven, you're no longer willing. You don't have to will them to get there. You're actually can focus on all the things that you really have to focus on beyond motivation, right? Beyond the motivation, because obviously kids still have to be motivated. You still have to do that at times, but you could start to work on things that help them get better. And I think that is where programs, having talked to so many coaches now, and I'm sure Derek would agree, that's kind of one of the theme things where you're able to get the players to understand they're the leaders, and it's almost like with really good teams, it's unspoken, right? They're just doing it, right? They're just making sure guys are, and that's when man, we could really, really, really go far because these players are holding each other accountable on a regular basis without any of us even saying anything. And I think that that's a unique thing. And I think that that's what you guys been able to do, which is amazing. I also talk about a little bit the fact, you mentioned multi-sports, right? And both you guys coach multiple sports in the school. Coach Dunn obviously is the head girls basketball coach, has coached other sports obviously in the past as well. You're coaching I'm assuming you're still coaching basketball with him, and you coach track, and then obviously Pete coaches track, right? So talk about how that multi-sport element is important to what you guys do.
Wait, you two coach girls basketball together?
Hell yeah.
So you go from football season together to basketball season together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been together how long now doing that?
13 years, something like that.
You guys need to write a freaking marriage book. and then you could both retire based off of that shit, because that's phenomenal. And now, like, we know what it's like at the end of the season when you don't want to see those dudes anymore. You're like, all right, bro, we need a little break. And now you guys just, okay, let's change up the balls, and here we go. Shit, that's awesome, guys. That's phenomenal. That's really kudos to like how it works. That's awesome.
It's a lot of beer drinking along the way is the problem.
Shit, there's got to be something along the way.
Yeah.
Derek, you also has to consistently bribe Joe. That's important. That's an important.
That's whatever works, dude.
All right, bribery is an important element for Joe. Just knowing Joe, that's like even if you want to get him on the phone, like you want to get him on the phone to have a conversation, just got to be a little bribery in there in order to get that going. That helps the relationship be even better.
Yeah, food and beverage, man. Easy.
Food and beverage.
That's it. That's the key to everybody's heart, brother. We'll work with that. That's phenomenal, though, because like the football sideline is very much different. Like, and then you get into a gym setting where, look, those echoes, everybody hears a lot more than they do in a football game, you know. But that's amazing. That's phenomenal.
Well, the best part is then football's never far from our minds either. Like,
of course.
And by the way, Joe said it. Like, we have guys that we enjoy being around. Outside of like football, like we'll hang and socialize together and do stuff together.
Right, families and whatnot.
Yeah, so it's not, it's something I look forward to coming into work. It's just the back and forth, and we can be totally blunt and honest with each other about what it is, about what you're wearing today. Like where'd you get dressed today? Like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So it's a good part that we have about our job.
That's, by the way, that is also another unique thing. The ability for coaches to be able to not just obviously have a good time with each other, but be able to tease each other and get along with, and be able to know that it's okay. Like, I mean, listen, I've been in a
locker room talk, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you've been on staff
that take offense. Like, I feel like there are some guys.
You've been on staffs where you're like walking on eggshells. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're tiptoeing around. Like, yeah, and I like Dave and I got to work with, you know what I mean? Like I don't have a filter, like it's just what I am. It's how it is. It's like,
I think went home crying. So like literally, like, I mean, and Derek's been there with me. Like, I'm like, oh my God, is this guy going to quit tomorrow?
We're like, are we getting an email from an admin in the morning? Like, we're not worried about the kids, we're worried about the coaches.
Like, I got mad because you weren't prepared for defensive practice. Like, they lined up at something that we saw in film, and you lined
and we're not like we don't know, like
lined up in a way that made no sense, and then you're upset because I'm upset with you.
Yeah,
like, isn't that your job as the coach to be prepared?
Yeah.
So, but yes, I mean, that I think is a unique thing. You guys have unique. Actually, it's sad that it's unique in the sense that
very much. And that's especially at the high school level, right? Especially at the high school level where, look, you can understand college and guys making moves to better their families or, move forward in their careers and whatnot. Like, so and that's what I grew up with, right? Like, at Group 1, but like I had the same coaches for a lot of years at Butler. And look, Dave has been introduced to like that culture and how it's like a cult, and it is what it is, that Morris County, whatever, but it's a small school. So it's a little different, but the fact that more coaching staffs aren't that way, it really is a shame, because that is what brings you to the office. That makes you, now you're not, we got to stay late or like you want to do that because you want to be around those guys and push each other to get better. It really is a shame, Dave, that like that doesn't, and that it doesn't happen more with a lot of these places. It's like a revolving door, or it's, oh, this guy coaches in or teaches in the school, so he can come coach this for you. Like, there's gotta be more to it than that. It's too much of a grind.
It's a cultural thing more.
It's right. And those staffs are uncomfortable.
Hold on, I would like to get their opinion on this. It's cultural in the sense that if you're in the schools, okay, there's a certain expectation that administrations have for their teachers and how they have to act and all that kind of stuff. And many years ago, when you went to high school, when I went to high school, when Coach Den went to high school, like, it was kind of understood that the coaches, when they went into coaching mode, okay, or were coaching, they were able to discuss things and talk how they needed to. And when they were in teaching mode, it was kind of expected them to be a certain way, okay? But that part has gone away. So a lot of it has been like, there's teachers that in a lot of cases, if they join the staff, they expect it to be like this copacetic thing like teaching is, as opposed to competitive like coaching is, competitive where you're forcing in a lot of cases people to push themselves to a different level. And that includes you as the coach, not just the players that you're working with, but you as the coach to be able to go to that level. And I think a lot of newer teachers have a harder time with that. I don't even know if you guys even experience or see any of that in your kind of world, but that's kind of some of the things that I've seen.
I think generational is part of the issue. It's just, even in dealing with the kids, whatever, other adults, people aren't used to being called out in front of other people. And that's the one thing we do, like whether it's coaches or players, like, we're going to call you out. We might be teasing you a little bit, but there's always a little truth behind it.
Right.
Like, yeah. That's what it is. And you can handle it. And I always tell the kids, the coach, the same thing. Like, listen, during practice, whatever, 2 hours, nobody cares about your problems. We don't care. Like, when the whistle blows, I care about all your problems. I really care a lot. And I care about the coach. But during practice, nobody cares. Get the job done. That's it. Right. I think it's the only time kids hear that. Like, they're used to their whole lives, or coaches even now, like younger coaches, like the world stops when they have a problem and we all got to sit there and figure it out before everybody moves on. Like, that's right. The way everybody's been raised. And, like in our world, like right before a couple days before the last game, my brother started lighting up Joe and saying, like, you're doing a crap job on Cheese D. Like, you're not bringing the house. They run all these stunts and you haven't run one of them. So he goes, that's it, MFer. We're coming after you then in practice today. And he's just unloading like everything going. So, I think the unique thing that's hard that you need to have on a staff is like, we're not feeding your ego. Like, we're here to expose your weaknesses. You know what I mean? And figure out how to get better. And we can do it with a sense of humor, or we can do it just like nasty. But like, when you get to know guys, you do it with a little sense of humor and
of course.
About what has to get better. And that's what we're all there for, getting better and finding the weaknesses, exposing them, and improving.
No doubt about it. All right. This is my last question before I don't want to hold up too much of your time for you guys, although I'm sure you're excited to get back to
AI day.
AI day. You guys,
yes.
One day you might be coaching with a robot. So I don't know, you got to learn it. You're going to have to program it. And then one day
you're going to have to feed that thing's ego.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You probably will.
Sure.
I don't know if it'll drink beer, but shoot, one day it probably will. So,
yeah.
But, yeah. So, as far as like where you kind of see how you continue to improve the program, because I think that the toughest part has to be is like, everybody in your world is used to you guys winning championships. So Like you guys are like the Alabama Group 3, you know what I mean? Or what Alabama
We're definitely getting everybody's best shot every year, you know. And if you don't look at Old Tappan and expect, you know, the expectation is a group championship, right? It's not even, you know, a sectional championship. You know, this is the expectation. You've done it now for a lot of years. This is kind of what it is. Like, how do you continue to, I guess what Dave, you're trying to like ask, how do you keep everybody hungry, right?
Well, no, I'll ask my question, but my question is
Okay.
that how do you take, like, so you get the expectations, the players have those expectations, the everyone in the community has those expectations, and then you go and you have to then go each year and be able to rebuild a new team or enhance a new team, and they think they're going to win a championship. So how each year do you manage getting those guys to continue to understand what the standard is, but yet not put pressure on themselves to get to that standard? Because I think that's always the hardest thing for kids from a performance standpoint is, oh, you know, my brother won a state championship here. Now I'm expected to win a state championship, and if I don't do that, I'm a failure, right? How do you maintain that standard, but have them also understand that, like, it's about your development, and it's not a pressure that you have to win it, but we know where we got to go from there.
I think, and Joe could talk to this too, but the biggest thing is we're not starting from scratch. Like that's the easiest part of the job, is like we're not starting from scratch. We're building from a strong foundation that's been there. And so you're adding bricks on top of that. The pressure of like the expectations, whatever, that's just self-imposed for us.
Right.
Like, you know, it's like whatever. And I think like we said, we're kind of like-minded. Like I don't give it much thought about like winning a playoff game or a championship. Like we understand like that's a goal, but it's really not spoken about. It's more about like the day-to-day get better. And I think the biggest thing is our kids understand that, like you mentioned, kids want to do this. They expect their brother one, whatever. Our kids know that, like, we're in there in the weight room. Joe's in there at 6 o'clock, 4 days a week with them starting January 1st. Like, and there's going to be a lot of hours spent where you're downtime talking, whatever. You're not in pads. You're not doing this. Like, you're putting a lot of time in. And they realize we really care about them other than what they do in football. I mean, you know, the football stuff is what we're ultimately working for, but it's really just a process to try and develop a lot of other skills. And if that's not really what you're about, then coaching high school football is hard. You know what I mean? Like that becomes a chore that you don't really enjoy. So we enjoy being around the kids and watching them grow, develop, and you walk into kids like, oh my God, this kid's shooting up. You see him growing before your eyes. And that's all part of it. And the football just comes as part of that progression, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does, but you know, putting all that stuff kind of in its place and prioritizing what's important now and what you're working on in the moment.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'll pretty much build off what Brian just said. Like, the thing is, we don't talk about it. You know what I mean? It's not even like, you know, hey, we're going to go to the state championship. It's like, no, can you actually get better today? Like, can you lift it and weight and be present in the moment? We don't talk about any of that stuff. I mean, I think we mentioned it maybe in a meeting in the beginning of the year, like, you know, our 3 goals, and then that's pretty much it. I mean, the rest of the time is just how can you better yourself today? Like, you know, it's part of the reason why we've all been together. Like, we're very like-minded. I mean, Dunn says it all the time to the kids. Like we want you to be like grow up in this program and be a better person when you leave. You know, be a better man. Like, you know, show up to work every single day, no matter how you're feeling. You know, and there's a job that's got to get done, and you got to get the job done. And then once that's done, then you can move on to the next thing. And so, like, you know, right now we're, you know, kids are enjoying it, obviously, because this is, you know, they work very hard for it. But, you know, come in 2 weeks, like it's back to work, and you know, or you're on to basketball, or you're on to wrestling, or you're on to or what, you know, whatever you're doing, you know, like, and then take those skills and just keep showing up every day. I mean, I think you can be successful in life right now if you just show up every single day and show up on time. I mean, you'll pretty much be successful, and people will want to hire you because of that, because you'll have accountability. So yes. I think that's the thing we stress more than winning championships. I mean, to be honest, I don't even think we talk about it at all. We just want them to be the best version of themselves they can be. I know that sounds corny, but that's kind of what it is, you know.
That is 100% the difference maker. I like that, the making sure you live in the moment and doing the best you can at that time, and it's that's the most important thing you can do, and it kind of builds off itself after that, right? It just kind of, each thing builds on itself. You're doing that each and every day, you're probably going to be in a pretty good place overall. And it's really interesting because it's so funny with, like, I'm sure you guys see all the stuff that goes on in college football. Obviously, recruiting wise, you're probably affected in some actually probably a large capacity with a lot of the stuff from a transfer portal standpoint. And you see how much money's flowing. You see Larry Ellison from Oracle decides he's going to give everybody from Michigan $150,000 to come, on the team to combat what Ohio State has done, plus steal the player that's going to LSU back to them, and that kind of arms race. When it comes right down to it, my favorite is how good West Point, has done this year and winning a championship, when those guys obviously have a higher purpose, right? And that those guys are potentially going to go off to war, and they understand that it's not just about, what they're getting as a player. It's doing everything, being the best they can be every single day. And I think what's the greatest thing about it is you see a group of guys that probably are not quite as athletic or quite as big as the teams they're playing, but they're close enough. And the fact that they're playing for a different purpose puts them over the top from a standpoint of performance wise. And I think, you guys kind of have that approach in what you guys are doing. Any kind of final last words before we let you go and enjoy AI Day?
Nah, man, I'm just happy to be on. And like I said, I mean, whatever. It's just fortunate to be around, and coaches, for all coaches, guys who listen to this. Like I said this, I still say it, like, there's not that many young coaches that I come across out there, but for all coaches, you're never that far from where you want to be. I always say that, like, because when I was younger and you're always trying to get to the mountaintop, whatever, and you think it's so far, and all of a sudden you're like, it wasn't that big of a jump, but it's like a mental barrier. You know what I mean? And like, and once you can clear it, like, and you understand and you learn yourself along the way, like, and same thing. Once you're really good, you're never far from being bad again, too. Like, things can go against you. And like 3 years ago, Joe and I are people screaming and cursing us out at the end of games about how terrible we were. We're not that far removed from that. You know what I mean? So it's not an easy gig that we're doing, but like, you just got to stay the course and have your own mindset of what works and what's your personality, and get around like-minded people and kids that'll work hard. It's a great job then.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on. Look how frozen I am. At least my face isn't some weird face I'm making when I'm frozen here, but well, I
your
can't
hair
thank
looks
you.
good, so you're good.
At least the faux hawks, not bad. And next time we'll just have a podcast where we just let Joe bust on people, and then we'll go. We'll build on it from there. You know what I mean? And we'll go through. But you guys, listen, you guys are the best. What you do with the kids are amazing at Old Tappan. It's I admire it. I know most of the New Jersey football coaches admire what you guys are doing, and there's a ton to learn from what you guys are doing at Old Tappan. So I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. And we still suck.
Thanks, fellas. Enjoy your day. Appreciate you taking the time.
We got good tunes on in the background, so appreciate you guys. Good seeing you.
Take care, Coach. Have a good off season. We'll talk soon.